Welcome back to Vanities by the Bonfire. My name is Dan, and so, as you may have noticed, we didn't post a video last week like I promised I would on Scotch, and wanted to let you know that I was a little under the weather, and I wasn't able to get a good recording done, so rather than put something out that wasn't good, I would just make sure that I did something really good this week. I'm not dealing with Scotch this week. For various reasons, but figured we would go back through cigars. We'll go through the anatomy of cigars and review what we learned in the previous weeks. So first thing we're going to do, let's do a little bit of review. So we have cigar, obviously. We have our cutter. Again, my favorite is the butterfly cutter. And then we have the jet flame butane lighter. Wanted to also show you this, and I mentioned a humidor last week. This is my pocket humidor. So this is something that you would use if you had cigars on the go and you wanted to go somewhere, say camping or whatever. And this one here holds 4. You'll see that it's cedar lined with a leather exterior, and that way it'll keep the cigars at the proper humidity. About 24 hours is usually what I'm going to say. And then, of course, we need the ashtray. I use my proper crystal one. This is my good luck crystal one. My last crystal one, I have to admit, much to my wife's chagrin, I broke. And that made her very sad. It was her grandmother's, and it made her sad. So we're going to go through some of the anatomy of a cigar, and then we're going to go through giving you a quick talk about my Quorum. This is the Toro size, and this is the Maduro. This is my go-to cigar. So this is the one that almost every time, if I'm going to have a cigar, this is what I'm going with. So I'll either have my Reposado 96 Maduro in a Churchill, or I'm going to have this one. And again, Maduro, it's a darker leaf, and I'll get into that too. So let's have a quick look at the anatomy of a cigar. So you're going to see they list 7 different shades of the cigar wrapper. When you look at this, you're going to find you're going to find 3. So the 3 that you're going to find are the Maduro, the nice dark one like I like, nice and cocoa colored, the Colorado, which is the natural leaf, and then what they call a Claro or Connecticut. It's also called the shade grown, and so it's a lighter one. Again, the difference between these 3, besides the color, is the robustness of the smoke that you're going to get. Outside of that, you can see there's ones that bounce in the different colors from extremes. And again, same thing, lighter flavor, very robust flavor. You're going to have a hard time finding a Oscuro or the double Claro, just because they're not as common as a lot of other cigars. So when you look at a cigar, if you happen to have one that's super dry and isn't going to be a good smoke and you want to pull it apart, this is what it looks like. So you're going to have your outer wrapper. Now this is one that may peel away when you're smoking your cigar. It's not a big deal. If the wrapper pulls away, that's fine. It usually is a sign that your cigar was dry at one point. Inside the wrapper, you're going to find the binder. Now the binder is actually what keeps the filler in place. And then of course the filler. And what the filler is actually tobacco leaves that are all folded up into the shape of the cigar. They're folded up into the shape of the cigar, and then they wrap it with the binder. And the binder's not strong enough to actually hold the filler all in place, and that's why they use the wrapper on top of that. Gives that little extra protection and allows a little bit more humidity control. Now this is from cigaraficionado.com and, or pardon me, cigaraffection.com. Cigar Aficionado is a wonderful magazine. If you're interested in getting a cigar magazine and learning all about all the great cigars, this is who you would go to. So this shows you, again, all the sizes then of the popular ones, and then it does show the cigar wrapper colors. I'm just going to touch on, again, the more common ones. So the most common one that you're probably going to find is the Robusto. The Robusto, you're looking at about 5 inches in length, and it's a ring size. So again, the circumference around, it's a 50. The next one you're going to find is common, in my world at least, is the Torpedo. Now the Torpedo generally is about 6 inches long and has about a ring size of 48. And then you're going to find the Toro, which is my favorite again. The Toro is a ring size of 50, and it's a length of about 6 inches. And then beyond that, you're going to find the Churchill. The Churchill is a ring size of 47, so it's a little bit more narrow than the Robusto or the Toro, but it's also longer, so you're looking at 7 inches in length. And then, if you ever get a chance to have one of these braided cigars, go for it. It's a wonderful smoke, and I'm sure that you would really enjoy that as a chance to try something unique. When you buy a cigar, generally you're going to find that they're labeled and where they're from. And this does give you some indication as to the quality of the cigar, as opposed to just the name of Quorum or Reposado or Cohiba, Romeo and Juliet, etc., etc. You can find Cohibas and Romeo and Juliets that aren't Cuban, but if you're going to buy one of those, you might as well buy a Cuban. So, the Caribbean countries where you're going to find cigars and cigar manufacturing is in Cuba, in Jamaica, the Dominican Republic, and then Puerto Rico, which happens to be covered with the P. You're also going to find along Central America, Mexico makes cigars, Honduras, Nicaragua, and Costa Rica. And then South America, you're looking at Venezuela, Colombia, Ecuador, which is where Quorum comes from, Peru, and then Brazil. Now, this isn't an exhaustive list as to where to get your cigars or where they come from, but it is where the majority of cigars come from. And you'll notice it's all the nice warmer countries closer to the equator. This is where the leaves like to grow. You can find tobacco growing outside of these areas, inside the United States. Even in Canada there is tobacco growth. And in Europe and Africa and so on and so forth. But these are the most popular ones. So of the dozen or so that I've shown you, these are the most popular places. Alright, so that is the gist of what I wanted to talk to you about. So let's go back to my Maduro Quorum. Again, it is Toro, so it's a ring size. It's a ring size of 50, and it's a length of about 6 inches. So like I did last time, take the band off. You'll notice I've mentioned before, the bands have different colors on them. This tells you, if you don't already know, what the wrapper is. So you'll see the nice wine color on this one. That tells you that it is a Maduro. And so I take my wrapper off, my band off, and put it aside so that I can keep it with my collection of all my other cigar bands. And again, I like to lick my tip, and it's not necessary. You don't have to. I just do it because I like to get the flavor. I like to make sure that the end is moistened enough so when I do cut it, I'm not going to get a whole bunch of extra leaf and so on and so forth. So I make sure that it's nice and square and cut. And I can deposit my end in the ashtray, and then we light it up. Now, I showed you before, you toast the end lightly by going in circles. That's one method. Quite often you'll find people will just use the lighter just on the tip and light it almost like you would like a cigarette. And in this way, there's no real right or wrong way. It is a matter of preference. And that's the great thing about cigars. It's always about a matter of preference. So, when I light this, you may not have noticed, but I twist it. Every single time I twist as I'm lighting, just to make sure I get a nice even burn. And the first couple puffs are nice and cool. It's got a wonderful flavor. It's got a wonderful mouth feel. And, you know, I like to think that I'm tasting some nice cocoa notes. I've got an end of a little bit of smoky oak. And this would pair really well with a good scotch, something that's got the oak tannins. So this is what I think this is where my life enjoyment comes from. Being able to sit and enjoy the finer things in life. And speaking of finer things in life, I've talked about cigars, and I'm going to talk about scotch next week, guaranteed. I promise you 100% we'll talk about scotch. But one other thing I want to mention, when I'm having my cigar, I like to have something to drink, obviously. And when I'm in the mood for a cigar in the morning, or maybe around lunchtime, while I'm having my cigar, I like to have a nice coffee. And I think that would be a nice way for us to work as well. Bring some coffee into this, maybe get a little bit of an education as to where coffee comes from and all the good stuff. So I'm going to try to intersperse the cigars with scotch and coffee. And then we'll go from there. We'll see what other finer things in life we can discuss and enjoy, and let's see if we can get a little bit of education on that. All right? I hope you enjoy yourself. Make sure that you take the time this weekend to enjoy your cigar. And this is Vanities by the Bonfire, and my name is Dan. Have a wonderful day. Proudly supported by YYC Smokes and Cigars.